Michael, coming in hot today, I imagine, after what we saw last night in Game 7?
I am so happy today, Stormy. I am so happy because what makes you happy is when you see something coming. And I've seen this for 7 years since that Ponzi scheme called The Process. Howard Eskin from Philadelphia and I are the only two people who have been critical of it and very outspoken of it, and outspoken about the greatness of Joel Embiid and about all these moves this team made. And the reality of it is no team can win a championship built on asset management, built on lack of toughness. Your Golden Knights won last night in Edmonton because they have mental toughness. The 76ers have been built. They're like the back lot at Universal. They look good on the front. You open the door, there's no house. They have no toughness whatsoever. It was a glowing moment for me because I've been preaching this for more than 7 years, and finally, some other people are listening.
So we'll get to the process side of this in a moment, but I want to get your perspective on just what happened last night, especially because it's a 3-point game at halftime. Things are looking competitive, and then you as a team with an MVP scored 10 points in the third quarter, absolutely lay an egg, and it's like you step away from the TV for a second, you come back, you're down 30.
Well, I mean, first of all, he was exhausted in the second quarter. I mean, he's out of shape. I mean, nobody wants to talk about it, but he's never been in shape. As his career as a professional athlete, he's never been. Conditioning has always been the problem. Boston came out with the mantra, we're going to run. We're going to get him out of shape. We're going to make him tired. By the second quarter, he was exhausted. As it relates to the third quarter, this is what I'm talking about, Stormy. Once a team built on asset management, built on catering to the players, built on never having to overcome any obstacles, once they ran into something tough, they folded like a cheap tent. Just like he walked up the court. He and his buddy Harden walked up the court in Game 6. You know, once it gets hard, they don't want anything to do with it. They fold. This is what happens. See, talent is meaningless if talent doesn't have mental toughness. Talent is meaningless if talent doesn't have competitive stamina. Talent is meaningless if talent doesn't compete. And that sums up the 76ers. They're talented, but they have none of the intangibles that make champions. And it starts with their leader. Well, he's no leader because he doesn't do anything that a leader would do. And Harden. I mean, the whole press conference afterwards where people said, well, you didn't watch the whole thing. You know, he wasn't blaming everybody. It was a complete joke. Yes, he's going to blame everybody. And sometime in July, he'll demand a trade because the heat will get turned up on him because I think people finally see through the facade.
Embiid, 5 of 18. He's minus 28 on the floor. Harden has now shot below 30% when facing elimination 6 times in his career. That's an all-time record, Michael. He was 3 of 11 last night. And your tweet, I got to tell you, so it's Mother's Day yesterday, and I'm watching the game at my mom's house with my family, and I am afraid to text you because I didn't know what I was going to get.
I was disappointed you didn't text me. I thought you would at least said, but that's okay. I got it.
Michael, I thought about it, but I was like, you need to vent your frustrations. I'll talk to you in the morning. And then I go to your Twitter and I end up basically reading story time to my family, going through your tweets, reading them aloud to everyone. It was electric. You have wonder if Embiid's going to cry after this one, because we all have cried watching him today. The MVP and his partner no-showed just as they did in the fourth, walking up the court in Game 6, of course, and then you give the process equals the Ponzi scheme. MVP minus 28 for the game. It's Shirley Temple time. Everyone will kill Harden. Embiid was out of gas in the second quarter. You can't win a championship without mental toughness. MVP joke. It was just every single tweet, Michael. I loved it, and I love that you have no shame in it. Let's talk about the process here, though, now, because I'm curious who's to blame. Obviously, well-intentioned, but didn't work out. And so you have... Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think when you build a team around losing, when you build an organization around losing, when you build an organization around catering to the players, oh, your foot hurts? Don't worry. You don't have to play this year. Oh, you have ankle pain? Sit out a game. No problem. When you built an organization around those contexts, you're basically never developing mental toughness. Bill Parcells has a great saying. He said, if you don't teach young players how to bite when they're puppies, they'll never learn to bite when they're older. Okay? That sums up the 76ers to a T. No one taught him how to bite. The people will tell you, in fairness to Embiid, people will tell you that when he was at Kansas, he wasn't this way. He got turned into this way. Money can do that. Catering to your every whim can do that. He's never taken conditioning seriously. People say, well, Lombardi, you're not in shape. I don't have to play 48 minutes.
You're not an NBA player.
The guy could barely make it up and down the court.
Yeah. It was bad.
I mean, the guy could. It was horrible. It's so obvious. I've been screaming how out of shape the guy's been for years. We have a guy here, Danny Pomeroy or somebody in town. I ripped him on WIP about not being in shape, and he's like, you don't know anything about his conditioning. I promise you, take his body fat. It's a joke. It's a complete joke. Kendrick Perkins gave this guy the MVP. He campaigned for him. And then he's ripping him on Twitter last night. Like, hey, Kendrick, if you paid attention to it all year, you would have seen it. You would have seen it. It was there. You're supposed to see it. You're an ex-player. You're supposed to know what you're looking at. I'm sitting here. I'm an NFL guy. I saw it from the beginning. It's a joke. The guy's a joke. The whole organization's a joke because they built this organization, Stormy, on no toughness. That's why I hate them. That's why, even though I'm a fan, I never bought into them because, to me, to win a championship, you got to have mental and physical toughness. They don't have it, and they went the opposite way. And so now they got to lay in their bed.
112-88 final in Game 7. The Sixers with Embiid have not gotten out of the second round. 5 of the last 6 years eliminated in the conference semifinals. 2001, the last time they've been to a conference final. That 13 playoff appearances, the second longest active streak. And now you wonder what's next because we talked about it yesterday. You felt like the team that came out of the losing end of this was going to lose their coach, and Doc Rivers' numbers when it comes to these situations are not good, Michael. Listen to this. Lost 10 times in Game 7, double the number of any other coach in NBA history. Pat Riley had 5, and think about the difference of coaching careers between those two. Doc is 17-33 now in his career in series clinching games, and the Sixers having a 3-2 lead in this series. He's lost 7 playoff series with his team up 3-2. No other head coach in NBA history has more than 2. And a lot of teams hire head coaches, Michael, based on the thought process of this is the type of a coach who can press the right buttons for a team come postseason. Doc, unfortunately, has done the complete opposite of that. So what's next for him and this franchise at the head coaching position?
Well, we got to put it in perspective. Doc's about trying to get in the Hall of Fame and win the regular season. I've said this before today. Doc does nothing to prepare his team for the postseason. He does nothing. And when the postseason comes, he just grab bags. He didn't play Daniel House. Check how many DNP Daniel House had during the regular season because he didn't like the way he was playing early. So instead of playing him through it or coaching him through it, he stops playing him. But then he needs him in the playoffs. We'll put him in. He did the same thing with Maxey. Wouldn't play Maxey as a rookie, and then he needed him in the playoffs, and all of a sudden everybody said, wow, Maxey's pretty good. Wow, what happened to him? He does nothing to prepare his team. Part of being a head coach is you have to see what lies distantly in the future. You've got to be able to say, okay, for us to win a Super Bowl, we're going to have to do this, this, and this. And it may not be related to the opponent you're playing. It's the same thing in the NFL. You know, we may have to do this. I said this all year on the Lombardi Line if I were in San Francisco, I would have been spending time in practice preparing to play Philadelphia. We were going to have to beat Philly. And we were going to have to understand how to handle the six-back offense. So as a head coach, that's part of your job. You got to figure out how we're going to do that within the constraints. Doc does none of that. Firing Doc is throwing a deck chair off the Titanic. The problems are way deeper than Doc. Unless they bring somebody in who's not into asset management and who's going to demand that Embiid get in shape, they're going to demand that they have some kind of structure within their building, that they're not going to run. Oh, you don't want to play tonight? No problem. Take the night off. Please feel free. You know, no problem. We don't practice. I mean, think about it. Harden was in Vegas and Atlantic City during the time between Brooklyn and Boston. He just off. They didn't practice. Embiid was in a knee brace. You think he was in shape? You think he was in the pool working on it? Of course not. They're lazy. They're entitled.
Yeah, and it's just so crazy coming into this game. We talked so much about which version of James Harden are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that puts the team on his back and puts up a huge performance and is facilitating and is doing all the things? And it was just an absolute no-show last night. How much, Michael, we only got about a minute and a half here left in this block. But how much now are the team really kicking themselves about this whole Jason Tatum and Markelle Fultz situation when he shows up and drops 51 in the most important game?
I mean, think about it. I mean, you could blame – look, this all starts with Henke and his decision, I mean, his horrendous decisions in drafting. You know, all this asset management means is you got to make the right decisions. It takes talent to evaluate talent. I mean, think about this. I said this when it was happening. Why do we think we're smarter than Danny Ainge? If Danny Ainge is willing to trade you the first pick overall and he knows he's going to get Tatum, maybe we should pick Tatum. But no. They brought Fultz in. You can read the book. Yaron Weitzman wrote a book about it. You can read it. They brought Fultz in for a workout, Stormy, and they all looked at each other and said, oh, my God, that was a horrible workout. But that wasn't going to stop them. No, it wasn't going to stop them. They were going to draft him anyway. How about this one? They have some clown in the front office who's a part owner who says, you know, when you run the numbers, Zaire Smith and Mikal Bridges are the same guy. Oh, they are? Oh, okay. Well, Mikel's over. I don't know what Mikel's doing right now. I mean, Mikel's playing for the Nets. Meanwhile, Zaire isn't even in the league. They're the same guy. And so that's when they made that trade. Oh, it's a comedy.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.